All right, everyone, welcome to the webinar. I know we'll have some people joining us logging in, but we'll go ahead and get started. Reward all of you who were here on time. I'm very excited to be hosting today's mini webinar, 3 must-do actions in December 2023. We did this at the beginning of the year. We did a mini webinar on 3 things you must do in January of 2023. So we thought we'd bring you the 3 must-do actions in December of 2023 to have the best year yet. Or next year yet. So for those of you who don't know me, I am Sherry Chaney Jones. I am the president and founder of Sure Impact. But I also have had a 20+ year career in working with nonprofits to help them use data to solve complex social problems. My personal mission is to help as many nonprofits as possible become impact-centric, where they're using data to change lives and change circumstances in our communities and to be thriving and successful nonprofits. And one way that we help nonprofits do that is to create impact-centric cultures where they are leveraging technology in order to have insights at their fingertips to help them better tell their story, raise more money, and scale their impact. And so we're very excited to be with you today to share some things that we see the highest performing nonprofits do focus on in December to set themselves up for an amazing next year. So as people are logging on, feel free to introduce yourself. I also would love to know from you, what is your greatest opportunity in 2024? So as you think about next year, I know we're still wrapping up 2023, but it's always good to always be kind of thinking about a quarter or two ahead, which brings us into a new year. So if you wouldn't mind in the chat, opening up the chat, just getting a little interactive here, and letting us know what is the greatest opportunity when you think about 2024? What excites you? What is the greatest opportunity for you and your organization? Thanks, Sandy, for letting us know major expansion in new and current markets for Project Help. That's super exciting. Sarah has a new coalition with community partners. That is also very exciting work. Love to hear what other people's new opportunities are in 2024. So if you want to open up the chat, let us know what those are. I would love to hear from you for those. Haley, partnering with community and current vendors. Wonderful. Great. So it sounds like there's a lot of, at least my sample of 3, those of you, expansion of educational collaborations, new pathways grant to address maternal needs in African-American women. Oh, congratulations. Improved communication with community supports, new work opportunities. All right. So I'm loving to hear all of the expansion for many of you to improve impact, connecting to youth, expansion, collaboration, communication. This is very good. Connection. So it sounds like, at least from our sample today, our 2024 theme could all be around collaboration, connection, and expanding impact. So if that is our opportunity, and those are our greatest opportunities, and we want to capitalize on those in 2024, what do we need to be doing in December of 2024 to make sure we can capitalize and take advantage of those opportunities? So the first thing we need to do is December of 2023 is a great time to pause and reflect. Most of you, if you do any sort of calendar year reporting, end of year impact statement, end of year giving reports, you're probably in a process right now where you're gearing up for Giving Tuesday, and you are looking back on last year's data and information. So December is a great time to review your year's outcomes and impact data for your end of reporting. You already are likely putting together that information. So it's a good time to kind of reflect on what data do we have, what outcomes did we achieve, what can we share about our organization's impact. It's also a great time to look at that story, look at the data you have, and ask yourself, do we need to refine it? Are the measures that we collected in the previous year the right ones? Does it help us tell our story? Is it going to help us extend our collaboration, increase new funding, and better tell our story in 2024? Or do we have to make some refinements and make some improvements? Now is a great time to identify those, so you have new measurements in place for the new year. And then also reflect on any barriers or challenges related to having this information, and why it's so important that in December we take some time to reflect on our outcomes and impact data reporting, is because data and impact measurement is a tool to help us achieve our goals, right? It's a tool to expand our impact. It's a tool to tell our story, to raise more money. It's a tool to make sure that we are being accountable to the work that we say we're going to do, understanding where things are on track and off track, and how we're going to pivot to move our organization forward. And so we need to have the right framework in place as we move into the new year, so we have that right data and that right systems. And maybe in 2023, we started off on a path towards this, or maybe we had other distractions get in the way, so we weren't fully able to implement our data collection systems. So it's a good time to identify what are those barriers or challenges you have related to accessing this information, and creating a plan to uncover those as well. Because what we are hearing from grant makers in the community is that impact measurement is a critical piece to their funding decisions. They are expecting nonprofits to be able to tell them their outputs and outcomes and impact data. In 2024, the technology is expanded. Budgets are tightening a little bit when they're giving out funding, and they want to invest in the organizations that can demonstrate their outcome and have a plan to measure their results going forward. So let's start with review this year's outcomes and impact data. Hopefully, the ideal state where every nonprofit should want to get is the ability to pull up a dashboard that lets them see how well they're moving the needle. In the slide you're seeing right now, this is just an example of a Sure Impact dashboard where our customers can quickly log in and see how well they moved the needle in 2023. If you're looking at this slide, you'll see the first outcome here is achieve housing goal, the ability to pay their mortgage or rent. And if this was your organization, you would know, okay, great, I can tell our funders about how we moved the needle from 76% of our clients this year being able to pay their mortgage or rent. Currently, 83% of all of our clients can, and 75% of them can maintain. And so that's the ideal state. The ideal state would be that your organization would be able to log in to some dashboard, have all that information at their fingertips to tell their story, talk about how many unique clients you serve, how many service hours you provided, and then what results did your clients experience because of the work that you're doing. And as you're looking at this, you would say, wow, okay, we can tell a great story about people being able to pay their mortgage or rent. However, a financial goal of looking at our credit history outcomes, it seems like that is an area for opportunity going forward this year. So we might want to dig in deeper to say what is preventing our clients from being able to pay their mortgage or rent. So again, it's a really good time. Come together, ask yourself, do we have this type of outcomes and impact data? Can we talk about how we've improved lives and circumstances this year? And if you can't, we'll talk about what you need to do around that. But this is a great year to kind of understand what did you do this year, how people are better off, and what needs to be improved for next year. So if you're thinking to yourself, do I have all of the data I need to tell a good impact story? There are 3 types of data that you should regularly have at your fingertips to tell your impact story. The first is you should know who you served and a little bit about them. If your mission statement is yours to serve people in a specific geographical region, or those in a certain income region, or those with a certain special condition, race, gender, ethnicity, you want to be able to talk about who have you served, whose lives have you impacted. You also want to, in your impact statement, be able to talk about what did you do with them? What services did they receive, and what dose did they receive that intervention? And then third, you'll want to share how are those that you serve better off because of your intervention. So this is a good way. What should you do in 2023 in December, at the end of the year, before now and the end of the year, is ask yourself, can I answer these 3 questions? Do I have measurable results that answer these 3 questions that allow me to tell the story for these 3 questions? Then hopefully the answer is yes, but we want to identify and highlight our successes, not only our successes across the whole organization, but also look at our successes by program, by demographic groups. So in this slide, you're seeing if you were a Sure Impact user, you can log into your measures section, you can pull up the key measures analytics that are important to you, and you can look at what percentage of our clients this year have increased, in this case, the outcome that we're looking at is income stability. If that was an outcome of yours, what percentage of our clients have improved income stability this year? And you'll quickly see if you're creating equitable outcomes. You'll see in the slide, the highlighted yellow is just showing us the different success rates based on different groups. And so if I were to look at this, I'd say, wow, we're creating some equitable outcomes for those that we know their data, right? We know that if they're white, Caucasian, we know they're Black or African American, but I would want to dig in a little bit and say, what's going on with the individuals who we don't know their race and ethnicity? For some reason, they have lower success rates. It could be, there could be a lot of reasons why those that you don't know their race and ethnicity are having different outcomes. It could be that you don't have as much interaction with them, and that's why they haven't had success, because you don't know their race. It could be because you didn't really have much interaction, so they didn't achieve success. But really digging down to figure out what is going on where you're having different successes, but highlight those areas where you are experiencing great success. And that's what you want to share. So the successes, that's what you use, that's what you celebrate, that's what you talk about externally. But we also want to understand where there are opportunities for improvement, because we're going to communicate those learnings as well more internally. But we want to then look at our data, look at our analytics, and what did we learn? This is why we should be doing this exercise at the end of the year, not just celebrating our successes. That's great for fundraising. That's great for attracting new donors and putting it on our on our annual reports. But even more importantly is the exercise to ask ourselves, what did we learn and what are we going to do about that learning? Did we learn that different different groups had different outcomes? Did we learn that different, regions of the country or regions in our city had different outcomes? Did we find new barriers related to seasonality or trends over time, that we're going to learn these new learnings, these new data-driven insights that we're going to then use in the coming year to make our program stronger and better? So that is an equally important opportunity, as well as celebrating your successes. And again, if you have your data in a way that you can quickly log in and see this information, you'll move your organization so much further faster than if you have to spend days and hours and weeks gathering this information to make any sense of it or to have it useful for you. So the next thing we want to do is, once we've looked at what data do we have available about our success in 2023 and about our learnings in 2023, we want to refine and develop the measurement framework. And the great way to do that is to review the story you just told. So based on the information you had, what kind of story were you able to tell? Ask yourself, does that tell the complete story of our organization? Or are there other things that would help us move our mission forward? Are there other things that if we knew them, we could tell a better impact story within our organization? And what's missing from the narrative? So a lot of nonprofits that we work with, when we start to work with them, they are able to tell how many people they served and maybe can talk about what those people did. But they're not able to break that information down by different demographic characteristics, and they're definitely not able to talk about outcomes and how people are better off because of the work they did, or the relationship between what was done and how people are better off. So really go, what is missing from the narrative? What do we need to implement in the coming year? And again, we want to make sure we can talk about what was done, how well was done, and how communities are better off. So be very reflective on the data that you have available to you, and are you able to answer these 3 questions with the data and insights that your organization is collecting. Here's an example of a measurement framework. If you don't have one of these yet for your organization or program, this is a very great place to start in 2023, creating a measurement framework. So again, this is an example, and we'll send the slides out to you so you can have this. But this is an example of how you would answer these different buckets. So for example, what was done? Those are the counts of the number of people that you serve based on different demographic groups that are important to you, as well as the number of services you provided. Now, how well it's done, these are going to be more related to quality measures, whether it's satisfaction, service satisfaction, or client experience measures, if it's timeliness measures, really looking at, are you meeting the needs of your community in a way that they receive them? And so often you're going to find this information through surveys or other things. And then the last is, how are people and communities better off? And again, depending on your mission is going to depend on what outcomes you'll be measuring. But in this measurement framework, you can see the outcomes include that clients did achieve a successful treatment outcome. They have stable housing. They have less disruptive behaviors. They've improved their academic outcomes. They have stayed in the least restrictive environment, and they have the appropriate level of care. And then when you have all that data, you can package it and tell your social return on investment story. So if you have not created a measurement framework, 2023, the end of 2023 is a great time to create this measurement framework, identify how you'll measure these these different outputs and outcomes in 2024, so that at the end of the year, you'll be able to successfully tell your story. So a great way to make sure that you'll be positioned in the right place in a year from now is ask yourself, what would be the ideal framework to tell your story next year? If you envision that annual report that you want to share next year, ask yourself, what data would I share? What short-term outcomes would I like to be celebrating? Of course, we can't predict if you will have the greatest success rate that you want, but what are those short-term outcomes that you want to be celebrating? And short-term outcomes are, what are those things that happen immediately after you implement your organization? So short-term outcomes are often things like knowledge, skills, abilities, access to care, or access to treatment, or access to some sort of service. So what short-term outcomes do you want to be celebrating? And your short-term outcomes should have the highest success rate of all of your outcomes, because you can control these very well. Also ask yourself, what medium-term outcomes would I like to be celebrating by the end of 2024? And medium outcomes are those results that when your clients experience those short-term outcomes, and then they go out into the world and they use those short-term outcomes, they use that new knowledge, they use that new skill, that they then will start to see changes. And there are going to be things like changes in behavior, more or maintenance of new behaviors, reduction of undesirable behaviors, increased income, increased wages, right? They're more substantial, but your nonprofit might have less control over them. So if we go back to that example at the very beginning of the webinar, where I showed that there was great success on the ability for the clients to pay their mortgage or rent, but there was less success in improving a credit score. That's the difference between a short-term outcome and a medium-term outcome, because that particular organization in that example was able to provide their clients rental assistance if they are unable to pay their mortgage or rent. So they had control, direct control over the ability to help their clients meet that goal. But when it came to credit score, there's a lot of other factors that they need to continually be working with their clients on in order to see those changes. And so we would expect all nonprofits to have a mixture of short-term outcomes that they can have quick wins, they can design their programming to see that have a high level of success, And then medium-term outcomes, it might be less of a higher success rate, but that's okay because there's a lot of factors and things you have to continue to work on. And that's where coalitions and collaboration is so important, because as you work together, you'll start to see those medium-term outcomes improve and increase. And then long-term outcomes, those are things that are going to happen over time. And those are things that you'll measure over time, but you might not expect to see happen in 1 year. These are things you might need to be multiple years before you start to see changes. But you won't see the changes over multiple years unless you start now tracking it and understanding the relationship between what you do, how well you do it, and then how communities are better off. And the more people that you serve, the more people that you're able to influence will then trickle into those longer term outcomes in your community. All right, so once you've asked yourself, what story do I want to tell? Then we need to get real, right? We've created a vision for the future, which is the very first step in any change management approach, is saying, hey, this is the story we want to tell next year. This is the data we'll need to collect in order to tell that story. But we also need to understand that if we don't have that data today to tell the story we want today, that we likely are going to have to do something different in 2024 in order to have that data. So now is a good time to identify any of the barriers or challenges that are getting in our way from having this information. We talk to nonprofit leaders all the time, and we hear that there's some common barriers or challenges. And the first is staff. Maybe you don't have enough staff. You're like, I don't know how I'm going to reprioritize people's time to do this information or to commit to this because I don't have enough staff. You may not have enough knowledge. So when you think about, I don't know how to analyze data. I don't know what to measure. That's another barrier. So there's a lot of resources out there to gain your knowledge, but you have to identify, is it a knowledge issue? And do we need to increase our knowledge to have the data that we need at the end of the year? Time is another barrier we often hear. It's especially if you're using a manual approach to data collection, you do not have, people don't have enough time in order to collect the data and information. And the last we hear often is money. We don't have enough money. We don't have enough funding. How are we going to pay for the work or the people or the things we need to collect data? So these are all barriers or challenges. They're real. Most people do experience these at sometimes. But what separates the organizations and the nonprofits that stay stuck in the scarcity place of not enough time, staff, knowledge, and funding, and those who go beyond it, is that they create a plan. They identify, they get really real about what are the barriers that we're experiencing and how are we going to create a plan to move forward. And so that's where technology can be a huge time saver. It's embracing impact measurement technology, if you haven't already, is a great place to start, because with technology, it solves for the not enough staff problem, because technology can do what technology can do, so people can do what people need to do. So with technology, you can have a platform that allows you to have one place to put data in, analyze that data, analyze that information, so a human doesn't have to do it. It's doing the work for you. It also can help with knowledge. For example, the Sure Impact platform puts in all of our collective knowledge on what are best practices. How should you be collecting data? How should you be analyzing data? So you don't need to have staff on your team who are experts at that, because the technology provides some of that knowledge and provides some of that training and the resources to increase your team. And technology also can help with time, again, not enough staff, but also the time intensiveness it often takes to the manual approach to data collection. So leveraging technology can very much remove in one commitment and saying, hey, we're going to leverage technology, can solve for the staff, for the time, and for the knowledge problem. Now let's talk about the funding problem, because you're probably sitting there thinking, great, I would love to implement impact measurement software to help me save staff's time, my staff resource time, as well as increase our knowledge and increase our ability to tell our impact story. But this funding issue, that's going to take money. We don't have money. Well, here are 2 ways for you to develop in your 2024 plan at the end of this year how you can secure the money to leverage technology. So the first is capacity building grants. Lots of funders offer capacity building grants. They are looking for opportunities to help nonprofit leaders be more innovative, be more data driven. And so that will be that's a really great way to go ask for those capacity building grants to implement impact measurement software. We'll follow up in an email with, actually, we have grant language that can help you do that. And then the other thing to do is, as you're building your program budget for 2024, you want to put impact measurement software in as part of your budget. And I can't say this enough. Funders do not see impact measurement software as an overhead expense. They actually see it as a programmatic expense, just like they see your staff as a programmatic expense. Oftentimes they see anything, tools and equipment you need to deliver your services, as a programmatic expense. Impact measurement software is the exact same, because it's helping you track what you do, how well you do it, and how people are better off. And so the best way to get this added into your budget is take the fee for the technology, whatever that will be for you, and divide it by the number of people that you serve in a year. And then you can just add that per client's technology fee when you're building your programming budget. It's a very affordable way to build your budget, to get that information, or to get access to all of those insights and data that you have. So the conclusion is, in this mini webinar on what you should be doing in this December to be successful in 2023, is, what are you measuring? Review what you're measuring, see if it's the right, the right measures. If you need to include measures, ask yourself what technology is getting in the way. Continue to measure so you can see if your new interventions and strategies are making a difference. And you keep taking that next faithful data-driven step in order to make the progress that your organization is having. And I really appreciate you all joining in this mini webinar. We do have some opportunities for you if you want to go deeper. We are offering end-of-year one-on-one consultations with me to help you develop a plan to bringing impact measurement technology to your organization. If that's something that you'd like to consider, we'll send out opportunities to schedule that with me. And I thank you very, very much for your time. And I will look forward to hopefully connecting with you soon in our one-on-one consultations. Thanks again. Have a great afternoon.